Welcome to the Discover Montcalm podcast, where we're going to take a look at the communities, the businesses, the attractions, and the people that make up Montcalm County. Here is your podcast host, Duane Weed.
Hello, and welcome to episode 46 of the Discover Montcalm podcast. My name's Duane. I'm the host and producer of the show, and we took last week off for Independence Day. I have a question. What does Independence Day mean to you? It's one of those things that I think it means an extra holiday for some people, but the true red, white, and blue, the American pride is kind of what it means to me. And I got looking at things and was thinking, I think this episode 46, I'm going to talk about reflection. I'd like to reflect on some things, not only from my side, but some of the Discover Montcalm podcast, and how we've been looking at time, how we've been going back in time and looking at how people have started their businesses, how the communities have grown in their history, from back then to now and over the course of time. I think it's real important that we do take time once in a while to reflect. So the first story I'd like to reflect on here is one that happened in episode 6. Margaret Krebs came to the studio and talked to us about her 100 years of change. And, one of the things that she was talking about back, her mom, when her mom was single, used to teach up in Burley, which is now the Burley Park area. And she lived in Trufant, and she would take the train from Trufant to Burley Park, spend the week teaching, and then go back home to her parents' house. I thought, wow, that's kind of cool. I mean, we don't have that many trains around here anymore. I know that when I grew up in Morley, we had a train that went through, and it was pretty interesting. You used to walk the train tracks, go down by the trestle there by Morley, by the Morley Dam. But as we reflect on things, and one of the things that I was talking to Margaret about was, what about modern conveniences?
What a gift it would be for my mother to see that you had a refrigerator, and you had running water, and you had, like she had the wash on an old scrub board, and think how easy all those things are for you. But you think that your life, because of the technology, has made your life so much easier.
You can walk to your kitchen or your bathroom and turn a knob and you got water. Yeah. You don't have to go outside and pump it.
Right.
And indoor plumbing probably was a great thing. Having a bathroom inside was probably great technology.
Oh, we didn't have a bathroom the 16 years I was on the farm. When we sold the farm, we lost the farm actually, and my grandpa had this house in Trufant, and so we moved in with. Grandpa lived with us all my life. He was a big part of my life.
Technology today is just that. Back in her day, that was modern technology, and what we have today is modern technology. I also ask her, what were some of the things that they did? Reflect back on her childhood or her younger years. And she talked about the Danish Brotherhood Hall in Trufant and kind of what that building, that group, did to kind of keep the community together.
Well, we couldn't go too far because we didn't have automobiles and things for 6 and 10 miles away,
As you were older and you were growing up and you were raising your kids here.
We have the DBS Hall in Trufant, and still today, that was Danish Brotherhood Society, and then of course my dad was with that, and that building has served for weddings and for anniversaries, for parties, and it's been a part of our life. We had dances, and dancing at that time was very popular because that was something that what didn't cost much. You had a makeshift band for the music, and everything.
But the whole community came together on a Friday or Saturday night
Yeah.
to get together, be social. They would dance.
Yes, yeah, they had the lunch always there too.
And you'd probably look for boys.
Yeah, that was a good place to have a date.
Okay.
Well, that and the free shows.
Okay.
Back in episode 2 of the Discover Montcalm podcast, I asked Bill Garlick to come in from the Fighting Falcon Museum and tell us, what is the Fighting Falcon Museum?
Well, the museum is quite an interesting place. It covers the military history of Greenville from the Civil War all the way up through to the end of our modern conflict.
Part of episode 2 went into deeper depth on the museum. Back in 2011, my jacket video production class at Greenville High School, we had an opportunity to interview Bill Delp, who passed away in 2022. But back in 2011, we had a chance to interview him and ask him to, reflect on different parts of Greenville and that. And he talked here about back when Gibson had a contract for the war efforts to make bombs, incendiary bombs.
These incendiary bombs, Gibson wasn't the only company making them. There were several companies manufactured them, but we made 750,000 of them for roughly $500,000. So they were only 75 cents a piece, which is pretty cheap warfare bombs. These small bombs were held in a canister of about 150 and held in the bomb bays of bombers. And when they were dropped out of the bomb bay over their target, the canister exploded and it blew these small 4-pound incendiary bombs. It just scattered them in the sky. And when they hit the town they were over, or their bombing target, each one exploded. And of course, it started a fire. And the minute this happened, the obvious thing that the people in this town being bombed would do would be to put water on them. When they put water on them, then they really had a problem. And these bombs were used throughout the war to literally incinerate bombing targets or towns, particularly in the early part of 1945, when the war in Germany was over. We had bomb groups in the Pacific that flew over Japanese towns, and these 4-pound incendiary bombs were dropped on these 46 towns, and they were literally burned out. And this is nothing to brag about, but it is factual. These bombs literally incinerated about 2 million Japanese people.
In just those 2 episodes, the history of what we're reflecting on is huge. And that's one of the things about Discover Montcalm and the podcast that I really enjoy, is to take a deeper dive, not only into the community, but the business, the families that make up the community, which makes up Montcalm County. So if you know of anybody that would like to share their business story or the family farm, the family business, or an organization or a community, I would like an opportunity to bring them in and let's talk. Let's share this history. Right after we take a short pause, we're going to come back and talk with Ralph Hollenstein, who recently passed away, and I had a chance to interview him back in 2018. And that's the history that I don't want to lose. And that's why it's important that the people that I can interview today, whether it be on a farm or whether it be on a business or whatever it might be, or even the community, let's get these people in while we can to tell that history. We'll come back with more with Ralph right after this message. We'd like to thank our sponsors. West Michigan Technology and Design Solutions is your perfect choice for managed IT, website design, website hosting, and consulting services. WMTDS.com, 616-485-7600. Custom Vinyl Signs and Busy Bee Embroidery and Gifts is your one-stop shop for embroidery, vinyl, screen printing, and engraving needs. Go to cbsdbusybees.com or call 989-261-7446. And DW Video, your film and videotape specialist. They design websites and business videos that tell and share your story. dwvideo.com, 231-250-9624. Now, back to our podcast. Thank you for tuning in to the Discover Montcalm podcast. My name is Duane. I'm your host and the producer. And you can find the Discover Montcalm podcast on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. You can find it at discovermontcalmpodcast.com, where we have all our episodes up. You can go on and grab the RSS feed or put it into your favorite podcast browser, and every time one comes up, you'll be notified. Ralph Hollenstein was the Reynolds Township supervisor from 1970 to 2005. And in 2018, I had a chance to interview him for what was going to be part of a documentary on Montcalm County. Well, worked on that for a couple years, COVID hit, things all changed, and that's how we ended up doing the podcast instead of the documentary. But back in 2018, I had a chance to sit down with him in his home and talk a little bit about his time as a township supervisor, when he came up to the Howard City area in Reynolds Township, what was it like? And one thing that kind of touched me is what he saw as some of the biggest growth during his time as a supervisor.
I felt as though the development of the whole township and the subdivisions that we had going and the different enforcements that we had protecting those had developed, and the value of the township had gone up millions of dollars from what it was when I took over. It was maybe 12 million or something like that, I think, and went up to 300 million. So we had good development. I mean, you don't necessarily see it just driving down the road, but if you look throughout our township and in some of the back roads and the subdivisions back there, there's some beautiful, beautiful homes. And it was very accessible from Grand Rapids. I think that's one of the primary reasons that it developed so rapidly. And we have such good development.
Part of that growth was also on the business side when the Renaissance Zone came into the Howard City, Reynolds Township, Pearson area. And I asked Ralph what the Renaissance Zone was about and his words about why he credited these people.
Well, the Renaissance Zone was very helpful because you had a tax break there. And I don't know how many years it was, but anyway, Wolverine decided that they wanted to participate in that. And of course, they're the biggest company that got involved in it. Well, then it advanced into Pearson, and Pearson had some shots at it, and they have got Sitzma over there, which is the Turkey people. And so it kind of all gelled and came together, but it was a very good thing. I contribute to Franz Magdas, that one man, what was accomplished up here. And that's my own personal view. And his association with Earl Sederlet and these people, Franz was a great guy.
Franz brought through the Renaissance Zone, the community center, how MCC came over, and anything.
Well, Franz, with his knowledge and his influence of the business that he was in, is what really put this whole program forth, as far as I was concerned. And there were other people involved, but I think he's the fellow that I would like to give credit to.
As we look around as our family histories, our communities, our businesses, the things that we see around us. I know that when my wife and I got married and we moved into this house, which was a trailer, which turned into a house, which turned into the studio, as we reflect back on that, we raised our two lovely children here, and it's just been a great place for us. I kind of like the small town feel, and I believe that goes a lot with who I am. But as I reflect on things, but in 2020, I started teaching over at the Montcalm Area Career Center, a class that they wanted to get started. And Shannon Tripp called me and said, "Hey, do you know anybody that'd be interested in teaching?" And I was like, well, I would be happy to interview. And 10 minutes into the interview, Shannon is calling it my class. I said, that's not a very good poker hand, but I joke that she got to the W's and it was getting close to the time that the school, was going to start. So, she was kind of, just, I think that kind of stuff is funny in my own head. But as we reflect on this, I get to see these young people, and I get to see these young people today, and to be part of putting in what I've done all of my life and to kind of help young people today move forward. I hope that in 50 years somebody can reflect back on not only me, but all the teachers and the businesses and the community leaders that brought where we are today into the future. One of the things with the podcast that I really enjoy is to be talking to people today about who they are, what they're doing. Let's talk about the communities. Let's talk about the attractions. Let's talk about the businesses, but more importantly, let's talk about the people that make up this community, make up our county, and are doing some really wonderful, wonderful things. So if you know somebody, have them get in touch with me at 231-250-9624. That's 231-250-9624. You can go to discovermontcalmpodcast.com and you can check us out there. You can check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Reach out, because I'm a storyteller and I want to tell your story. And in closing, remember to buy and shop locally. Thank you for tuning in.
Connect and subscribe to Discover Montcalm Podcast at discovermontcalmpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Discover Montcalm Podcast. To be featured in an upcoming show, contact Duane at 231-250-9624. Remember to subscribe at discovermontcalmpodcast.com.